Good morning, everybody. Is there any problem with the yesterday's thing? Were you able to revise? In fact, I left two exercises. One is limit definition using epsilon delta can also be shown to be equivalent to using sequential definition as you are done for continuity. And second thing is the algebra of finite limits. Okay. It will be good that you should not take it for granted. You should at least check it among yourself at once and for all so that you will know for sure. Okay, how many of you have done that? Good. So suppose I want to talk about limit x tends to a of fx equal to L is not equal to 0, then what is the obvious limit? What kind of function I want to deal with? What I would like to say about it? How do I formulate the result? Is the question clear? I am clearing. Whoever knows the answer, please say yes. If you want, I will repeat the question. Limit x tends to a of fx equal to L is not 0. Then what kind of function I would like to talk about, and what should be the result I would like to talk about, and how do I formulate it? Because that's algebra limits, right? For algebra continuous function, you are done. F plus g, fg, and so on. So what should be the result here? Yeah. Alapan?
In a interval.
Not in an interval, there exists.
Right? Yeah, there exists a positive. Interval. Yeah.
So that
there exists a delta positive in which the function f will take the same, I mean either positive or negative.
Okay, but since I don't want to talk about it, maybe even complex valued function. So let us say, because the positivity negativity is not going to make any difference to limits. Okay, let us just keep it as non-zero. Okay, if f is a complex valued function, still the result will be true. Okay, so you are right. Now tell me. So there is a delta positive, so that for all x in a intersection a minus delta to a plus delta, fx is non-zero. Therefore, the function 1 by f is defined there. Okay, it may not be defined on the entire original set A, but on the set A intersection A minus delta to A plus delta. Right, very good. So I will share the screen. Let us write the formulated. Make sure that we understand that. Yeah, good, Alapan. You are able to see this, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And please note this. There's a slide in my Facebook today. I did something else too. Okay, right. So what we have in mind is this. Suppose a limit x tends to a. Why am my writing is bad? I think I'm not holding it properly. So let us assume limit x tends to a of fx equal to L, and L is not equal to 0. Of course, the f is as usual from A to R, and A is a cluster point of A, right? And we assume this limit exists. Then what we want to say is there exists a delta positive, so that for all x in A intersection A minus delta to A plus delta, fx is non-zero. That's the first observation. The second thing is, because this is true, therefore for all x in that particular set, we can define a new function. We will of course call it 1 by f at x equal to 1 by fx. This makes sense. Then this function is defined now. Then what we want to conclude? We want to conclude limit x tends to a of 1 by f at x equal to 1 by L. Okay, this is a very precise formulation, one of the algebra of limits. Okay, one item in algebra of finite limits. So is this clear? The proof is of course easy. As Alapan already said, if L is not equal to 0, right? As usual, as we did in the sequences, you choose L minus mod L by 2, L plus mod L by 2 kind of thing. Therefore, then there is a delta, so that for all x here, fx should lie here, therefore it will be non-zero. Okay, do all of you agree with that? Yeah, therefore 1 is seen and 2 makes sense and 3 is clear, because if you now you take any sequence xn in a intersection this interval, then 1 by fxn. What we know is fxn tends to L by algebra convergence sequences 1 by f at xn, which is 1 by fxn. We know that it converges 1 by L. Yeah. So is the proof clear to all? It's easy, right? Very trivial. The only thing is we needed little care here, but it's to be expected because we have done it for sequences, we have done it for continuous function. The same argument is what we are using here. That is why this kind of thing you should do on your own. If a teacher does, you think it's again another problem, but you should see it's the same problem like you did. It's like say doing something similar. 1 pen costs 5 rupees, 3 pens cost how much? That problem is no different from, okay, one bun costs, one bread slice costs 5 rupees, and what is the price of 3 bread slices? The problems are the same, 3 times 5, right? That's what mathematics is about. In abstraction, there is no difference between the earlier problem and the second problem. Do I understand this? Yeah. So you should, whenever there is something similar, you should do on your own. You should not wait. You should not assume either. If the teacher proves a result for increasing, you should prove on your own for decreasing. If the result proves for something for positive, you should try to prove it for negative, assuming it's true, of course. Okay, like that. So anything analogous result, if the teacher says without loss of generality, I will assume this is the case, then whatever leftover cases you should try on your own. That's the best way to master anything. Okay, that's a general thing. Okay, now let's look at one more thing. Suppose this is all just to make you comfortable with the notion. Actually, this should be left as an exercise. Okay, now G again is a function from A to R, except I assume it's bounded. I have no idea about what kind of a function G is, except it's a bounded function, right? Then what can you say about yeah? Can somebody tell me the answer? Yes, Debanita. What is the answer?
Sir, the limit will be 0, and because the part will be less or equal to some m, and
That's
then it will
that's
multiply.
enough. No, that we already know. The best thing will be to take a sequence xn, okay, which converges to A, then fxn into gxn. Fxn goes to 0, but gxn is bounded. Do you remember we have shown that if an goes to 0, bn is bounded, then a and bn goes to 0,
Equals to 0.
right? So that's all we have to use. We don't have to use anything else.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
You follow that? Yes. These are all very small exercises just to make sure that you feel comfortable with the notion. Because limit thing is just some kind, this is a standard thing, x squared minus 4 by x minus 2 kind of thing from 12th standard, 11th standard onwards. Okay, but there is a lot more to do that to the limit, which is very important concept in mathematics, so we should learn it properly. Okay, now let's do another thing. Suppose I have a function f. Oh, I'm still in this color. Okay. From A to R. Right. Now let us assume I have a function g. Okay. To R. It may actually be taking values in B. Okay. Then g may be from B to R. Also assume limit x tends to A. Okay. Of fx equal to L. Then I would like to say limit g of this. Okay, you understand this? This is what I want to look at. Do you have any idea what kind of restrictions I am about to put? Think about, first guess the answer, what should be the right side limit. Then I want to prove that, then what kind of condition I should impose. See, you should work backwards. Yeah, okay. Manmohan?
Limit is g of L.
Pardon me?
The limit should be g of L.
G of L. Okay, that's your guess. Very good. Okay. Then what are the restrictions I have to impose?
The restriction on g is to be defined on some interval containing L.
Say it again. So, see, now g of L, that's a correct thing. Therefore, wait. Therefore, as I said, if it is R, there is no problem. But if I simply said B, right? Suppose I only said B, g of L should make sense. Therefore, what should I insist? What kind of B I should have? L must be an element of B. Then only g of L will make sense. Do you agree? Right? Okay, that's a very correct answer. Now, okay, this is what I want to prove. Go through the proof. Okay, try to see, do I need extra assumption? So I have a sequence xn in A which converges to A, the point A. Therefore, xn converges to A. Therefore, f of xn will converge to L. Right? F of xn converges to L. Therefore, what do I want? To check this, are how many of you are following? So what condition I need? Can somebody tell me? Am I asking a difficult question? I don't believe so. Depan with the Manmohan. I already asked Manmohan, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Alapan, I had asked. Depan with I had asked. Aman, he has a network connectivity problem. I don't know.
Yes, sir. Just to be continuous.
Right. You want G to be continuous at L. L is in B. Right. Therefore, the definition of this GL makes sense. Continuity is easy. Therefore, to check, what do I have to check? I have to check. You give me a sequence xn in A so that xn converges to A. I have to check G comma F of xn. Does it converge to G of L? Right? Now, notice that limit of x tends to A fx is L. Therefore, fxn will converge to L. Therefore, this is G of fxn. Okay. But this is same as G of, oh, right, G of fxn. No, I don't want to say anything. Sorry. Right? Okay. Now, what do I know? F of xn, this is a sequence where in B, because f takes values in B, and f of xn converges to L, that was given to me, right? Because limit of f at A is L. Therefore, f of xn converges to L. Now, since G is continuous at L and Fxn is a sequence in B that converges to L, G Fxn will converge to G of L. So what is the condition I need? G should be continuous at A. This is the only condition I need. How many have you understood?
And if need not to be continuous at A.
Oh, pardon me?
If
Continuous
need
at
not to
A, continuous
Yes.
L.
be at A. If I'm talking about if.
Yeah.
If need not to be continuous at A. Am I right?
Yeah. We never needed that.
Yes. Yeah.
You understand that? We never needed that. What did we need? We needed only this one. For this, what do I need? Give me any sequence xn in A and A minus the singleton A if you want to be very precise. Xn converges to A, then Fxn converges to L. That's the only thing I needed. So these are my Yns, which are Fxn in the codomain, and Yn converges to L, and G is continuous at L. Therefore, G of Yn converges to G of L. Is that clear? So please spend some time, and once it's clear, tell me. Okay, no doubt, right? So this is a very useful thing. Of course, one can give a counter example. If G is not continuous, something can fail, etc. Okay. See, you can look at my book, etc. But that's not important. You should always try to understand, because everybody, even when I was a student, I was very, what do you call, obsessed with the counter examples. Okay. It's like, something in anomaly. What is important is the positive result, which is what you will need in future. And you should be also aware when the result can fail. Okay. So that's the reason. Okay. So you can look for a counter example in my book or in some other book. Continuity is needed. To show that continuity is needed. Okay. But what is more important is this. Most often this is the kind of thing you will use. Yeah. Okay. Now what else I have to do? Right. Now let us look at various Sider limits, etc. I will come to that. Is there anything else I have to do? Algebra I have done. This one I have done. Okay. I think this is enough. If there is anything, I will come back. So now I want to talk about limit x tends to some A star, where A star may be a real number, or it may be what I call A plus. This is just a notation. There is nothing like A plus. It's not a real, it is just a notation. Okay, that is x tends to what? X tends to A star. Okay, that A star could be A or A plus or A minus or plus infinity or minus infinity. Do you understand this? So Fx. Okay, and this L again could be okay, a real number, or L could be plus infinity or L could be minus infinity. So these are this I want to assign meaning to this object. How many of you understand? It may look cryptic, but do you understand?
Sir, what is the meaning of A plus?
That's what I just said. It's just a notation. See, that's what I said. Understand this as a single unit. X tends to A star, okay, where A star equal to A plus, A minus. That is x going to A plus. That's the meaning which I have to attach. Okay. Are you following?
Okay.
Right.
Okay, sir.
See, as I said, limit, okay, An equal to L, for me, it's just a single unit. It stands for any given epsilon, there is a capital N. etc., etc., etc. Okay, this symbol just stands for the huge sentence. So similarly for me, x tends to a star, okay, is a symbol. I have to explain the symbol. That's what I plan to do now. Am I clear now? Because again, x goes to plus infinity also I have to explain. We have not done that. What you have done is, if you give me a sequence of numbers, it goes to plus infinity I have defined, and it going to minus infinity I have defined. But this is x is not a sequence. It's a continuous variable. Okay, it's a continuum running over something. So some of the abstract thing, you should just try to vaguely understand. As we go along, we will explain carefully. Then you should again revisit. Okay. So what do we mean by that? Is the following. Okay. When I write x tends to a plus, what do I mean by that? Is the following. Okay. I say limit x tends to a plus of fx equal to L. Okay. For the time being, let's assume L is real. I will come to that L is minus infinity also later. Okay. In fact, if you are happy, I will discuss it in a one single setup. Okay. So I will tell you what it is. For each a star, a may be real or whatever I denote by a plus or a minus. The interval j a star, okay, j a. Let me write. Please bear with me. Please forget whatever you have learned about limits. Then it will interfere. For me, JA is any interval of the form a minus delta to a plus delta for some delta positive. And JA plus, okay, let me make sure that I'm writing. X goes from here, therefore should be of the form a to a plus delta. And J, a minus is a minus delta to a plus, right? Approaches a from this side here. This is this one. Okay.
Sir, in JA we can abandon the point A.
No, interval is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
This is an interval. I don't want to deviate from that. When I'm formulating the definition, I'll take care of it. Okay.
Okay.
Now, for L, again I want. If L is finite, okay. If L is a real number, then this is L minus epsilon to L plus epsilon for some epsilon positive. Any such epsilon, that will be a typical JL for me. And suppose L equal to plus infinity, I want an interval of infinity. Infinity simply means you keep on going here. Okay, somewhere far away. So if you remember how I define limit an equal to infinity, that is an diverges to infinity, you will remember. What does it mean? I have to look for some r positive. Therefore, that will be r to infinity. That is set of all x in R such that x is greater than R. So this is an interval containing infinity intuitively for me. This is an interval containing the object a plus for me. And this is an interval containing a minus for me. Do you understand this? And for L equal to minus infinity, can somebody tell me what it should be? Yeah, I am coming. Yeah. What should this be? Sangeeta?
Minus infinity to R.
Right. Whereas R is any real number, but typically we will take it to be negative. Right? Now, can somebody tell me how to define limit x tends to a star of fx equal to L, where a star may be any one of the 5 numbers, not 5 symbols. Okay. And L may be again one of the 3 symbols, a real number or it's a placeholder. It's just an, okay, this is not a real number. You understand that? This is just a notation. Can somebody tell me what should be the definition?
uh, if x is approaching to a star, that means in a suitable neighborhood of a star, that means there
I
there
don't
will
have
exist
any,
a.
please go slow. Don't use words I never used. I don't know what is meant by a neighborhood. That's what I said. Forget about what you learned earlier. I have no idea about neighborhood. And you cannot even say for a suitable neighborhood. That you are again forgetting. How did you define limit x tends to a of fx equal to L, where a is finite, L is also finite? How did you define? Not suitable neighborhood. Okay, that word I never used anyway. Okay, what did you say?
Given any jail,
Very good. You
I
understand
will,
that? See, think of that, and instead of that jail, use that particular jail, whatever the jail. You understand that? Yeah, right. Say it.
so given any jail, I will have a JA.
If for every
Every
JL,
jail, there exists a JA.
J,
J star.
A star. Okay, A star. Yeah. So then x belongs to J star will imply that f of x will belong to J.
no, we have to take care of, Sangeeta or Dep and Vita.
Oh, yeah.
In the case of finite case. Yeah?
A should be out of here.
Yeah, if A is 7 plus or minus input, you can throw it out. Okay? And also if A is a plus or, but in that case, other if it's
because f of A need not to be defined if
right.
at A.
That's right. What should you want then?
So now I want f of x to be in JL. In JL.
Is the definition clear? Spend some time. You can see there are 15 definitions of limits. We had encoded again. This is the hallmark of mathematics. Textbooks unnecessarily keep on writing so many definitions. You don't need that. Enjoy this. Please take about a minute. Do not be in a hurry. So, are you happy with the definition? Are you also comfortable? Yes? Good. Now even one-sided limit, etc. are taken care. Okay? And infinite limits also taken care. And also just to make sure that we understand, let us do some small exercise just to make sure. Suppose what is the meaning of limit x tends to minus infinity of fx equal to plus infinity. Okay? Just to see whether we understood this, I want somebody to explain this now. Is that question clear? Okay, explain this now. Just for fun. So now you don't say there exists j infinity, j minus infinity, etc. But I want in terms of numbers now. Let's look at what is the definition of j infinity and what is the definition of this fellow. Then you will understand. Yeah, here also I forgot j of plus infinity is r to infinity, j of minus infinity is, I thought I wrote it somewhere. This is the same thing, yeah. Yeah. So what does this mean? This means that give me any for every m positive, there exists r positive, so that for all x less than minus r, my fx must be greater than m. Do you understand this? This will give you confidence how to get back. Okay, if you simply use my JLJ thing, your teacher may be really annoyed with you. That's not the definition he said. Right now, you should decode the definition for him. So what did I give? Given any neighborhood of plus infinity. That means I given any g infinity. These are the form r infinity, so I am using m infinity, right? Therefore, given any m positive, then I want to say there is a neighborhood of minus infinity. That is, sorry, I keep started using because of you neighborhood. There is an interval around minus infinity, which is a form minus infinity to r. Okay, let me assume minus r now. Okay, therefore, for every x in less than minus r, my fx should be lie in this interval. That is, it should be greater than m. Yeah, all of you understood? Okay, now I will ask one more question. Just to make sure. So what is the meaning of limit x tends to infinity of fx equal to L, where L is finite? L is in R. All of you go through the definition in your mind and say yes if you got it. I am clearing everybody. Now you should use given what?
Epsilon.
Right, given epsilon positive, then what do you want to say? There exists?
There exists an
A
R.
neighborhood of there is an interval around infinity in your mind. For your teacher, you should read as something else. There exists?
Some R greater than 0. Such
R.
that x,
You don't have to say R greater than
oh yeah.
0.
Okay,
There
so
exists a real
R,
number R, so that
x greater R implies that fx minus L mod of that is less than epsilon.
yeah. But again, you
Yeah,
are using
fx
your
minus-
teacher, right? Modulus is what he wants. Okay,
Yeah.
because you putting in an interval looks like a geometry. Okay. Are all of you comfortable? Okay. Okay. So my exercise for you is challenge yourself with a few such things. With a few such questions. So that you know that a very simple encoding makes life easy. Limit x tends to a star of fx equal to L means give me any interval JL, then there exists an interval JA star, so that for all x in JA star, x not equal to A, fx should lie in JL. That's it. Is that all right? Okay. Now there are a few questions we should like to, okay. I'll give some minute. Just to tell me if I can go ahead. Say yes if I can go ahead. If you want some time, I will also give it. Okay, good. Now there are a few things we should ask about. Suppose I have, look at this, limit x tends to a plus of fx, limit x tends to a minus of fx, and limit x tends to a of fx. So I'm sure all of you have learned the thing, left limit, right limit. A plus is called the right limit, right? X going to a minus should be called the left limit. Just to tell me whether I'm correct. Okay, good.
Just for remembering, if plus means I am coming from the plus infinity
No,
side.
no, Ajay, come on. Look at man. I'm just asking. I also know that. Okay. Sometimes, when I in my mood to explain, these kind of basic things do not matter to me. Okay, I ignore. Anyway, right. Yeah. X approaches A from the left or X approaches A from the right. Okay, that's all you want to say. That's fine. I know that. Okay, good. Now what this? So this you call as what kind of limit? This is the right limit, right? This is the left limit, and this is the limit. Okay. Now you know a theorem also, right? You must have heard, 12th standard. What is the result you would like to check? Yeah. What is the limit you would like to check now? What is the question you would like to ask?
left limit and right limit is same, then limit to say fx exists or not.
Yeah. Alapan, your thing is very musical to me because of network connectivity. I hear like some bad fellow, a beginner playing with the piano or violin. Ta-tang, 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 ta-tang. That's all. Very good.
These three are real numbers, so I want to see whether they are related or not in
Yeah,
terms
that's
of
a question.
equal.
Right. Very good. Very correct. Alapan even goes one step ahead. What he says is, if this limit exists, then this limit also exists and they are equal. And the next thing is, this limit exists if and only if these two limits exist and they are equal. Okay. What is the theorem now? Limit x tends to a of fx. Now we are in the finite case. Okay. Where exists if and only if limit x tends to a plus of fx equal to limit x tends to a minus of fx. First, I am assuming they exist if only if both limits exist and they are equal. They are equal. Okay. Let's try to see the proof just for fun. If the limit x tends to a of fx equal to L exists, does this follow? This exists? Okay. Assume limit x tends to a of fx. In fact, these things you should do as an exercise. That's the only way. And you should also find out whether I need to be finite or infinite and all that kind of, exists and equal to L. And similarly, limit x tends to a minus of fx exists and equal to L. That's very easy, right? Yeah. Suppose this question first makes sense. If this has to make sense, notice that a must be a finite point. A must be a real number. Do all of you understand this? If this question to make sense, a has to be a real number. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. If a is plus infinity, there is no way of approaching plus infinity from left side and from right side, and similarly minus infinity also. Do you understand? See, these are the small things you always miss. So this necessarily a must be finite. But L could be plus anything. It could be a real number, it could be infinity, or it could be minus infinity. So we have to rule out whether all three can happen or should we rule out some cases. Is the question clear? I just want you to critically analyze things. Okay, not jump to the proof quickly. Are you following? Therefore, the first assumption is a must be finite. Second assumption is, can L is R is okay, whether I can allow this. This is the question. Do you understand my thing? Right? Okay. That's somewhat easy. Let us just go through the proof. Let's see. Suppose L is finite, okay, then you have to give me a JL, that is L minus epsilon to L plus epsilon. And since A is also finite, then let's look at this case. This case is similar. So let us take, okay. Since the limit x tends to a of fx equal to L exists, there exists some JL, which is JA, which is a minus delta to a plus delta. Right? So that for all x in A and x in this interval, fx lies here. Therefore, in particular, for all x in the interval a to a plus delta, x is in A and x is in this interval, fx lie here. Right? And uniqueness of the limit also shows it should be L. How many of you followed? I went a little fast, but by now you should be thorough. Is that okay? Good. And similarly, x tends to a minus. I just have to take a minus delta to a. Okay, that's clear. Okay, so this case is disposed of. Now, suppose L is plus infinity. Let us try to see. Okay, what does that mean? This means there exists as x tends to a, right? Then there is a delta a minus delta to a plus delta. So I have an r. Okay, I have to start with a neighborhood. Let us take L equal to plus infinity. Then let's look at j infinity to be r infinity. Right? For this interval around infinity, there is a delta so that for every x here, of course, x not equal to a, x is in a, etc. X not equal to a, x is in a, and x is in the interval. Then what do I know is fx is greater than r for every x. Do you understand that? Therefore, for all x here also it should happen. And similarly for this. How many of you understood? I am clearing. And do not be in a hurry to say agree with me. So I have to prove this is given to me. I have to prove this. Okay. So you gave me this interval around infinity. Then I use this to get a delta interval. Then I look at only the interval a to a plus delta. Take any x here and x is in a. Then fx is naturally lies here. That means limit x tends to a plus of fx equal to plus infinity. I proved it. And similarly other one. Okay. And similarly minus infinity can also be done. Do all of you agree with that? Okay. Very good. Now let's look at the other way around. So I have proved if this exists this way, I have proved. This is done. Now I have to prove the other way around. That is, assume one-sided limits both exist and they are equal. Can I conclude this? But I think that should be also be equally easy. Let us finite case, let me drop. Let me assume now my L is actually infinity. Then what do I know it? Limit x tends to a plus of fx. This is also infinity, and limit x tends to a minus fx. That's also infinity. Then I want to claim yeah, but this should be again easy. Okay, so to prove this, you will be giving me an interval around infinity. Therefore, there is an r. Right? Now let's look at given for this r, limit x goes to a plus of fx equal to infinity. That means there is a delta 1 so that a to a plus delta 1 start with any x in a and x in this interval, fx will be greater than r. And similarly, limit x tends to a minus of fx equal to infinity. Therefore, there is a delta 2. So start with any x here, which is also in a, fx will be greater than this. So I think now all of you know the usual circus. What should I do now?
Take minimum of delta 1
Right.
and delta 2.
Take delta equal to positive number. It's anyway minimum of delta 1 and delta 2. Then what do I know? I have a minus delta to a plus delta. A may be something. Now for any x in a, and remember it cannot be a, right? Therefore I am ruled out. Therefore the x will be either in a to a plus delta or a minus delta to a plus delta. But a minus delta to a is contained in a minus delta to a. And similarly, a to a plus delta is contained in a to a plus delta 1. Therefore, this x belongs to either this or this. And hence fx is greater than r. Is the proof okay? So, even with infinite case, this is the correct thing. Finite case, similar proof. There is absolutely no problem. See, this is the advantage. You know, once you had understood something, then you should have the confidence I can work out the case. How many of you are confident now? This kind of thing you can easily deal with? Say thumbs up if you are confident. I don't know whether thumbs up is there. Yeah, yeah, right. It is there. Okay, good. Now let's look at some one or two trivial examples before we go further. So let us look at a limit x tends to 0 of 1 by x. Okay, my a is r minus 0. Okay, whether I want to know whether it exists. When I write a limit, okay, you should not assume it exists. Okay, how many of you think the limit exists? Very correct. Right. Why? Can somebody answer? Let's say Sangeeta, can you answer why it does not exist? I am unable to hear you, Sangeeta. Is she speaking?
Hello? Hello,
Yeah,
sir?
tell me. Can you speak a little louder? Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes. I don't know, sir.
No, you already have intuition, but you are slightly afraid. Don't be afraid. Now, what is the limit, right side limit of 1 by x? How many of you know the answer? Yeah, Sangeeta, you tell me now. Now at least you should say. What is the right side limit of 1 by x?
Sir, it's infinity.
Right. What's the left side limit?
It's minus infinity.
Therefore, by the Euler theorem,
It's not equal and
right.
therefore it does
Of
not
course, we can directly prove. Yeah, but then we have to work out various cases. Okay,
exist, sir.
maybe the limit equal to L, which is a finite number, I have to rule out, or maybe L is plus infinity, then I have to rule out, etc. Okay, but this is much easier. Do
Okay,
you
sir.
appreciate this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is like very, in some sense, is analogous to our this sequence 1 minus 1 1 minus 1. The standard proof all your college teachers would have given for this non-convergence is there exist two distinct subsequences converge to distinct limits. Therefore, the original sequence is not convergent. But in MTTS, we give a direct proof. You understand? So this is similar to the your college level teacher proof. Okay, one-sided limits are distinct. Therefore, the limit cannot exist. Right? Do you appreciate what I'm saying? See, you should enjoy mathematics. That's when you can see the parallel analogy, patterns, because finally any science is pattern recognition. Do all of you agree with that? Very good. Now let's look at one case. Do you remember we proved if P is a polynomial of odd degree with real coefficients, it has a real root. In that we established some inequality. We said that there is an R said that if mod x is greater than R, then I don't remember, let me write Px, that is very important, because if it is a sign is different, I will have trouble. Okay, we have proved something like this, right? Okay, so this is the basic, as I said, any fundamental theorem of algebra will need the behavior of polynomial function at least. Now, what does this say? Suppose n is odd. Okay, what does this say about limit x tends to infinity of px and limit x tends to infinity of minus infinity of px? This is what we actually proved in that case. So how many of you understand this? If n is odd, limit x tends to infinity of px is, we just have to use this fellow, right? This will be greater than half into r to the power n If r is also greater than 1, then this will be as large as I want. Is that clear to all? Therefore, this is infinity. Whereas if I have this, yeah, this is for x. Again, I wrote wrongly. This is for modulus. That day also I had the same problem. Do you remember? What all we did was I wrote px equal to x power n into gx. For gx is the inequality, I wrote that. When I multiply by x power n, the sign of x will affect. Okay. Maybe that's one which again caused you problem. So let us quickly recall what we did that day so that we do not make the same mistake. We wrote px as x power n into gx, and what we found out was there exists r positive greater than 1 also, so that for all x mod x greater than r, we said half is less than or equal to, okay, let us make it right. Therefore, if x is positive, if I multiply by x power n, then I'm going to get half x power n is less than or equal to x power n gx is less than or equal to 3 by 2 into x power n. Do you understand this? Therefore, limit x tends to plus infinity of px will be greater than or equal to half of x power n. Therefore, that will be infinity. How many of you follow? X is greater than r, therefore r is greater than 1, therefore we know it goes to infinity. We had already shown that. Okay, or if you want, you can prove that directly. Okay, now suppose x is negative, then x power n will be negative, this inequality changes. Therefore, x power n gx, this is half of x power n, that will be greater than or equal to this, but this is negative. And this is less than a negative number, therefore this will also be negative. Okay, therefore this goes to minus infinity. Are you convinced? Sure? Please say yes if you are. Okay. Now suppose n is even. What can you say about limit x tends to infinity of px and limit x tends to infinity of minus infinity of px? Can somebody tell me the answer? Go back. If n is even if x is negative, x power n will be still positive, large positive number. Therefore, px will be greater than a large positive number. And if x is positive, yes, certainly this is greater than. Therefore, what is the conclusion? Tamogna, what is the conclusion?
Both way it will go to infinity, right?
Is that clear to all? Sure. Please review, because limit is just naam ke vaste, something done, but yeah, now we are going in depth to analyze various things. Okay, now I will take another 5 minutes and stop the lecture. See, we had algebra of limits. Do you remember? Okay, now let's look at the following. If mindless application of algebra of limits will lead to the so-called indeterminate forms. What do I mean by that? Let us look at one simple example. Suppose fx equal to x. My domain is all of R now, if you want. And gx equal to x plus c, let us say, and x. Right? You understand this? Now, let us look at. If you want, make it even minus x. Then what happens to limit x tends to infinity of fx?
Infinity.
Infinity. And what is the limit x tends to infinity of gx?
Minus infinity.
Right. Okay. But what is, therefore, The mindless application of algebra limits will say limit extends to, because about 200 years ago, the infinity also they thought as a number they were dealing with. Okay, they got confused. But now with modern understanding and thanks to their efforts, okay, it's not our own thing. They all helped us. Okay, this you cannot write. Limit extends to a of fx plus limit extends to a of gx. If it are finite limit, we have proved it. But now in the case is not finite limit, right? Therefore, I'll have something like a symbol infinity and here a symbol minus infinity. Then what is the meaning? Then they will say it's indeterminate. Why did they say indeterminate? What is the meaning of indeterminate? That you cannot determine. Okay, there is an ambiguity. Okay, it may be anything, so you cannot determine. That's why they said indeterminate. Because let us look at what is limit extends to a of f plus gx. What is f plus gx? What is f plus g at x?
C.
C. This is a constant. Therefore, what is the limit?
C.
C. What is C? Could be any real number. You see that? Therefore, infinity of minus infinity can be any real number. So this confused them at the time, because they thought the algebra limits, which is valid only for finite limits, they can manipulate it for infinite limits also. So that is why the so-called indeterminate forms, which you learn in calculus, came. Now do you understand what was the mistake? The mistake is the algebra of finite limits, you mindlessly want to apply it to situations where it is not applicable. How many of you appreciate this? We will go look at one more example, but try to understand. Right? Now let's look at similar example. Just they are in the same vein. I'll just give some few things. Let us look at fx equal to x squared and gx. Okay, let me put again cx and x. Now again we know limit extends to infinity of fx equal to infinity equal to limit. Let me assume c is positive. Gx. Okay. Right. Therefore, limit x tends to infinity of fx by gx. They will say it is of the form indeterminate. Why did they say indeterminate? Let's again look at what is fx by gx. It is always a constant c. Therefore, the limit actually exists. It is equal to c. Right? If you c were negative, then it will be minus. It will be c again. Okay, whatever c, I will get c. But then you will get minus infinity by infinity. That's the only difference. Are you following me? So they will say infinity by infinity is indeterminate. And the third one, let us look at. So let us look at f of x equal to x squared and g of x equal to 1 by x, and my domain A is positive. Positive real. Then what is the limit x tends to 0 plus of fx? 0. What limit x tends to 0 plus of gx? Plus infinity. Therefore, the limit will be of the form infinity times 0. It is indeterminate. Do you follow that? But on the other hand, if I look at limit x tends to 0 plus of fx by gx, what do I get? I get x, that is 0. If you don't like, you make it for cx, then I will get c for any c.
fx into gx.
Sorry, you are right. Thanks. Since it was 1 by x, I was thinking right. Very good. Or take g equal to x and 1 by g, if you want that form. Okay, anyway, it's all right. You follow what I'm trying to say? So you can see all the indeterminate forms arise by a wrong application of the algebra of limits. Okay, so the only way you have to deal with them is look at the function, compute the composite function like f plus g, f times g, f power g, or whatever it is, and understand, and then apply the definition of limit. Okay, that's where L'Hopital's rules help you to do that. Right, so we'll stop here. So if you have any questions, you ask me. Let me see whether I have to do anything more about. Otherwise, I think it's enough. And it's a time for you to go back to my book and look at the exercises, etc. I think I seem to have covered everything, more or less. Yeah, including indeterminate forms, I seem to have covered. That's very good. Okay. So tomorrow, not tomorrow, I will inform you. Probably on Monday or Tuesday, 2 consecutive days, I will start with uniform continuity and prove whatever you want. So 2 more lectures. Hopefully that will be the end of continuity. Okay. So are there any questions? Can I close this? Stop share. Okay.